Exactly what the mural was, Quark really wasn't sure. For years, that same wall had been dominated by a large Cardassian galore, courtesy of Gul Dukat. Quark seldom cared about politics, and if the Commandant of Terok Nor had wanted his grandmother hung on the wall, it would have been fine with the Ferengi. So the lurid green, pink, and yellow symbol of the Cardassian Union, which looked to Quark like some improbable combination of the hooded smiling partner of Ferengi legend and a short-handled screwdriver, had remained proudly in place until Gul Dukat had swaggered in one day to announce he had just won a spectacular work of rare and valuable art in a late-night game of Tongo. And since Quarks was the only public facility on the station with a ceiling high enough to properly display this great treasure, Dukat proclaimed Quarks would be its new home. At the time, Quark had cared about as much about his establishment's decor as he did about politics. His was the only bar in the Cardassian half of the station. Indeed, it was the only bar on the entire station, the closest thing to competition being the Cardassian Cafe. And if a tired Cardassian soldier or Bajoran trustee would rather eat replicated Cardassian Nimook without benefit of Kanar to wash it down, in the company of luscious Jabbo girls, then Quark was just as happy not to have those lackluster, boring slugs take up valuable space in his bar. So, Cardassian galore or Dukat's esteemed art treasure, it mattered little to Quark at the time, what was on the back wall of his bar. True, he had to shut down for 2 days while a team of Bajoran artisans were brought up to install the mural, and Subcommandant Akaris had not granted Quark's request for a matching percentage decrease in the weekly kickback, that is, licensing fee, that Quark had to pay the station management office. But Dukat had more than made up for Quark's initial lost profits by pretentiously buying endless rounds for his staff on the night the mural was grandly unveiled, to mostly diffident, though polite, applause.
Dabo makes the universe go round.
As Quark had worked the tables that night, he had overheard the Bajoran comfort women saying that at least the orange light helped bring a more Bajoran flush to the cold, gray faces of the Cardassian officers they were forced to entertain. Quark himself liked the orange light, because it made it easier to use short measures in amber-colored drinks. And Dukat got to proudly trumpet on about the addition he had made to culture on Terok Nor, making the station an uplifting beacon of Cardassian light amongst the primitive darkness of Bajoran sector. It was just that no one seemed to be sure what the mural was supposed to represent, until finally, that first night, when much Kanar had been consumed and 2 Glins had already been dragged off to the infirmary after a particularly brutish fight, which fortunately had lasted long enough for Quark to take bets and clear 5 slips of latinum. Dukat toasted the mural in such a way that it was clear what he thought it was. "To a mighty enemy," Dukat had proclaimed, "defeated at last, now sentenced to look upon the works of the Cardassian Union in despair. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the portrait of Admiral Alkeen, late of the Tholian Assembly." After Dukat and his guests had left that evening, Quark and Rom and 2 Cardassian mining engineers had closed the place, leaning on the bar, staring thoughtfully up at what was now called the Tholian mural. One mining engineer drunkenly offered up the observation that Tholians had faceted heads. The other, in an equal state of disequilibrium, disagreed, maintaining it was the Tholian helmets that were faceted, and that the shape of Tholian heads was closer to the long and pointed sections included in the mural, except that he was positive the mural had been installed upside down. Rom had volunteered that he was fairly certain the mural was actually a version of the traditional good luck banners that were always hung over the drinking troughs in what he delicately referred to as Tellarite mud pits of ill repute. "Yup, they make them by the hundreds on Tellaris," Rom had sniggered. "And you see that same crazy design on Tellarite scarves and pillboxes and lingerie." Quark remembered glaring at his idiot brother, demanding to know why the Tellarites would put a portrait of a Tholian admiral on lingerie. Rom had simply shrugged and gone on to explain in excruciatingly precise and clinical detail that the shape of the mural was not that of a Tholian head at all, but of an entirely different, but equally remarkable part of Tellarite male anatomy. Even as he began to laugh at Rom's hilariously ribald description, Quark had felt his heart actually stop beating as he suddenly remembered the presence of the 2 Cardassian engineers. Fortunately, both were so drunk they didn't hear Rom dismiss the gull's great work of art as nothing more than a big Tellarite.
What's the harm in a little friendly wager?
Well, even in private, Quark had not been able to say the word, though he relished the aptness of the image. For at least a year after that, he and Rom had shared a rare moment of rapport in their guilty private pleasure every time Dukat came to the bar with whoever his latest comfort woman was and regaled her with the story of Admiral O'Keen, ending with a grandiloquent toast in salute to the mural. Only Quark and his brother knew to what the gull was really raising his glass, and they kept that knowledge to themselves. And if any other visitors to Quarks during those last years of the occupation recognized what was hanging on the wall for what it was, they also wisely kept their expert knowledge and their laughter to themselves. Though Quark had never been able to confirm Rom's saucy identification of the mural's subject matter, and for that matter had never been able to determine how his idiot brother had come to have such a deep knowledge of Tellarite mud pits of ill repute, it was always in Quark's mind that if the day ever came that the Cardassians left Terok Nor, he would celebrate that glorious occasion by shattering Gul Dukat's mural into 10,000 shards. But that day had come and gone, 6 long years ago, and the mural remained, with both he and Rom still referring to it, in private, as the Admiral. Why? No reason. But now you can't unsee it either. Thirsty.
Dabo makes the universe go round.